Thank you for tuning in to the Light of Conscience, where the knowing that exists where thoughts do not lights the way. Subscribe to stay inspired. The best compliment you can give us is to share this with a friend. You can also leave a rating, write a review to help others find us. The more the merrier in the light of conscience. Love itself is molding us into what we be. Why wait for tomorrow when right now we can be free? So break down your defenses and throw away your shield and give yourself this moment to believe in what you feel. Hi everyone, thanks again so much for joining us. I'm with Brandon Smith today. I'm so excited to share him with you. He was our photographer for our wedding last April, and I have to say the first time we even talked on the phone, I knew. And then meeting him at the wedding, it was like, okay, this guy is totally heart-led, and I am so excited that I'm connected with him, and now you get to be too. Welcome to the podcast, Brandon.
Oh my gosh, Laura, thank you so much for having me. I've got a little tickle of excitement when you messaged me a month ago, and we had such a beautiful connection, and your wedding was so memorable for me for so many reasons that I'm super stoked to be able to sit down and kind of like dig through some of the things that we brought up.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I know that you do so many weddings, so for mine to be memorable for you, that makes my heart tickle a little.
I'm going to say probably it will be the only time a bride will walk down the aisle with a guitar singing a personally written song to her groom. It doesn't get any more like sentimental and special than that. So.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, yeah. I did that. And it was a surprise. He didn't know I was going to do that. So I don't know how I kept it a surprise, but it worked. So thank you so much.
You are so welcome. I have the biggest smile on my face remembering it.
Awesome. As far as these interviews, I usually ask people what makes them or how they figured out that they were a way shower right at the start. Do you even know what I'm talking about when I say way shower?
I mean, I have probably my own connection to those words, but maybe for continuity, if you want to break down, what those words kind of resonate from you, or if you want me just to kind of feel that out myself.
Do it yourself.
So, I mean, obviously I would think that for me, the way that resonates for me is coming into alignment with the energy inside yourself that's guiding your passions, but doing that in the material world. So obviously there's a mental journey on that, but when you have come into alignment with how to express your passion in the material world, then I think that starts to create like a ripple effect. You start to draw people towards you that resonate with you. And you also start to draw people towards you that don't resonate with you, that maybe need to come into your sphere so that you guys can exchange something and learn something from each other. I just feel like there's a difference in the energy that I've been able to connect to in this decade of my life versus the previous decade. And the contrast is so stark that I feel like I have a pretty clear grasp on what that feels like, because it's just so different. I don't know if that fully answers your question, but that's just what comes through for me.
That's absolutely perfect. And I am really excited to talk about kind of your process or your experience of that contrast. And for me, what I say, basically a way shower is somebody who is living from their heart, that is comfortable or working toward being comfortable, being themselves. And that's exactly what you expressed in your own words. And honestly, it's not about like being a leader. It's just about being you and being okay with you as you are, and that in itself shows others that it's possible. So yeah. That was absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
And
it's taken a long time to get to that point, for sure. That was never something that was just kind of, I mean, I feel like I've always had that that desire to have that sense about myself where I felt comfortable. But obviously we all experience that journey here, where we have to find that like love for ourselves and find that kind of comfort. And even if it's just a little bit, it's not like we just get there and it's like, oh, I'm living it and I'm perfectly manifested in my love for myself. It's definitely a spectrum and a journey, but it's probably one of the most important parts of our journey.
I agree. I have to ask you this question because I've been there. When you were talking, this is perfect. When you were saying, oh, it's like you're there and then it's just automatically manifested and you're just there. In your process of getting from maybe not self-love to self-love, did you have a point in there when you were just like pretending so hard that you were already manifested in this self-love that you thought you were, and then something like that happened to me, and I think it happens to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Kind
I
of
think,
talking about the yoga scene right now.
yeah. Oh
Not
yeah. No,
that.
that's true. There's definitely a chapter of that. I think for me, I definitely was aware that I was wearing a mask.
Mm.
And because, my 20s were very, we can just throw it out there, very like substance filled, and a lot of confusion and a lot of just kind of the extreme version of avoiding yourself. So I was pretty aware that I was wearing a mask, and I was really good at my mask. And it's really interesting because my mask from my 20s actually resembles me now. So from the outside, you might not, think there was too much that was like, is extremely different, but it's my experience of myself that is just a worlds different. So the mask that I'm wearing now is more in alignment with like who I actually am, whereas before it was an absolute just charade.
If our mics weren't so amazing, I would be like, okay, drop your mic.
Drop it.
No, if they weren't so great, don't drop your mic.
Oh my gosh.
Please don't drop your mic. We have great mics, everybody.
Yeah, that deserved a little bit of a pause, I guess. But yeah, but I actually, I know what you're talking about. It's when you start to get a little bit better that you can go into a chapter where you're wearing that mask in a different way, and it just immediately think, there is a little bit of an introductory chapter where you're like, I got this.
Yeah, and that's okay. It's
Yeah.
totally fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I think whatever you need to do to find that, the beginning of confidence, and so I can't judge people for kind of taking it a little too overboard, where they're like, I'm living my best life and everything is amazing. And, social media makes it really easy to post everything that's amazing and look how beautiful everything is. Ultimately, I can't fault that, because I would hope that the intention is that, it's trying to build that self-confidence by embodying it maybe a little sooner than it really is. And that beats the alternative of just being like, a horrible person on the planet. So there's that.
Absolutely. I love when you're talking. So speaking of social media, everyone check out Brandon Smith Photography, right?
Yes.
On Instagram, because I'm on there. But his posts are amazing, and you can see why I picked him as our wedding photographer. Other than the fact that he's just awesome. And I'd love to go back a little bit and talk about your story.
Okay.
You said that you did have addictions in your past. You were talking about that. I don't know how much you want to share of that, if you want to.
I'm a completely open book. I'm really happy about how things have collided to land me where I'm at. So yeah, we can go anywhere you want.
Awesome. Well, in that sense, we can go anywhere you want.
Okay.
Where did it start? Like, did it start when you hit rock bottom, or were you like,
I will say, no, I do have an opinion on this, because this comes up a lot. We are very creative creatures, and you can keep making another bottom. Like, it just, until you're dead, there almost is no, to me, it just, you'd hit a point where to one person you're bottoming, like it couldn't get any worse. And then somehow, if you're not ready to let it go, you can just find a whole new bottom, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. And so, but I will say, So, I mean, just to like sum it up, obviously I've been to rehab when I was 26. I've done a lot of counseling. I'm into like talking, talk therapy, trying to figure out your story. And even though it's kind of just describing the evolution of the ego, it is kind of nice to have a little bit of a grasp on like your story and how all of this went down. I had a lot of insecurities when I was teenager. I was dealing with the fact that I was realizing that I'm probably gay. My parents got divorced. I grew up with my mom, who's like the most amazing person ever, but I didn't have the father figure. And so there was just a lot of like, a lot of conflicting things, feeling unattractive, so I just started to cover those things up with experimenting, and it started out in a normal way and it just progressed into, as I got older, I was just teaching myself bad coping mechanisms by like, I don't like the way that I feel. Let me alter it on purpose. And we all do that all day long in various ways. But obviously there are those of us where we just take it too far and we have created a state in our brain little by little that years go by. And then that state is just so wired and it is so thick. And anyway, that led from like 20 to 30, honestly, being just not a lot of growth and a whole lot of, just darkness and just chipper on the outside. Classic, personality type of just everybody, life of the party on the outside, and just a deepening sense of brokenness on the inside. I'm trying to keep it abridged because it's a decade of information, but basically remind me where we were at with I love me a tangent. So keep me on.
I'm just riveted. I want you to keep going as far as you want. I had asked about rock bottom, and then you said you had an opinion, and I'm like, what is rock bottom anyway?
There was a little bit of a rock bottom for me.
The turning point, right?
But yeah, you can, unless you leave this plane, like you can just keep going. But, there is a lot of information to learn in the abyss, my word for kind of, or the I Ching's word for just that spiraling kind of darkness. But I will say though, that I had kind of started to experience like a drug-induced like psychosis towards the end. So that was really wild, first of all, but it did kind of help me want to get out of it, because all of it that had to do with just me and my life, I could kind of handle, and I was ready to just be like, whatever. But when I started to like really go crazy, hearing voices and thinking like things that weren't true, and just it's very painful to be crazy. Just delusions of grandeur, and then also delusions of just like horrible things and hearing horrible things about yourself. So it's a little difficult to describe, but it's at the end of the day, it just sucks to be crazy. And I remembered being that that wasn't the way that I was supposed to be. So I just kind of began the journey of trying to like clear my head and stop using like as intensely. And it takes about a year. I mean, you really have to like settle in. And part of that journey is, and I have this conversation with people, is, when you have developed a really negative outlook on yourself and on your life, you have to settle in for a ride. There is no affirmation and there's no thing, there's no session, there's no thing that will make you feel better. And I think what really helped me was settling into the realization that it's okay to feel like shit. And you need to allow yourself to feel like shit for as long as your body needs to, because you've been kind of mismanaging your emotions for a really long time. There is no, I'm just going to feel better for a while. And that's okay. You just settle in and you're like, I don't feel good. I feel really bad, but I'm not trying to do anything about it. And I'm just going to sit here and I'm just going to let time go by. And I just hung out in my room and I cried for like months, like maybe 4 or 5 off and on. And the magical thing about our bodies is, 1, they know how to heal on their own, but 2, you can get used to anything. And it's like, this torture device of my bedroom and like, getting used to this new life and not hanging out with anyone, not doing anything, not being high anymore. That just felt so like horrible in the beginning, but months go by and you just get used to it and you're like, okay, this is a new space for me. And then when I finally kind of just started to ground into that new existence was when my brain, one, started to heal and I wasn't crazy anymore. And then it was only like 6 months into it that I was able to begin the process. So you really have to settle in when you're trying to change something that's really dark. You can't just like tomorrow start using affirmations and you feel great. 6 months in, I started using affirmations. And even then they felt so annoying. Like one of them in the very beginning, it was, I don't remember the first one, but I did them in periods. The second one is, money comes to me easily and naturally. And I know that sounds kind of materialistic, but when you've been like a drug addict for a really long time, you've never had any like money or anything. So I kind of wanted to reestablish myself in like working and like trying to become, successful in my own right. And so anyway, I'm kind of going on a little bit of a tangent there, but my point was that it takes a long time before you can even begin the work sometimes, depending on where you're at. You just need to take stock on like, how deep are you, and be realistic with yourself and be soft with yourself and allow yourself to kind of come to a neutral place before you begin like the deeper work.
That was so profound. And I don't think that was a tangent at all. I love that you brought up that affirmations feel funny.
Yeah.
Because even when you're not so deep into darkness as maybe you were, or who knows, everyone's darkness is relative. So
right.
Somebody who's not on drugs might still have, like, for them, it's the exact same level of darkness, but to just be like, I am healthy and whole, or something, when your back hurts and your foot is broken or whatever it is, it's like, it makes no sense to the mind. And it really shouldn't make sense to the mind, because that's not what the mind's job is necessarily for. But like you were saying, you can get used to anything.
And you can get used to those new affirmations. I think that's the journey, that's why it feels like so lame when you're trying to say, I love myself, I am a wonderful, beautiful person. Like those things feel so false, but that is the sign that you have built your neural pathway into a negative self-talk mode. So when you say something positive about yourself, that response where you're like, ugh, oh my God, I feel so fake, that is confirming that those pathways have been kind of instructed to reinforce in a negative way.
Absolutely. That is like, you're really good at what you're saying. Just so you know. Are you a teacher? I know you're a photographer, but do you do trainings and stuff? Because man, you're like you really got it.
Thanks, Laura.
And I'd love to, like, I kind of just want to keep hearing you talk. But one of the points that you wanted to bring up, unless you have more to say about, getting out of that addiction, I feel like
no, it can get kind of like wordy and really deep, and I feel like the point is we can kind of dance around and see like what pops up.
Okay. I just want to hear you talk about this. Follow what brings you joy, and allowing that thing not to necessarily be the thing you end up doing, right? Because it led you to something. I mean, when I read that, I was like, yes, because I've experienced it myself, to where I thought it was going to look like this, and I was doing this because of that, and then it just like, no. So tell me.
Yeah, so that experience for me was yoga had always been like a part of my psyche and my life since I was about 16. And I loved that it was like this mysterious thing. But I always knew, like, oh, one day it would be so great to be a yoga teacher. But, during my 20s when I was so false, even then, I mean, I was always in touch with myself on a general level. And I always knew like, there's no way I'm going to be a yoga teacher if I'm like, doing drugs. So in my 30s, or at around 30, when I finally got clean and it was like for real, yoga had always floated back up to the surface and was like, hey, pay attention to me. You love me. And it was just this thing. I was like, okay, fine. And so I got back in, and I very quickly did a yoga teacher training and felt like the stars were aligning and like, okay, we're doing this thing and this is more in alignment with who I am. Like this is a field and a career path that like feels good. And yeah, I did my teacher training but it was so funny. And I went to a studio and she was going to hire me. And I was like, I was about to go on a trip with my friends to the Pacific Northwest. And so I told the chick, okay, I love this. Thank you so much. I'm going to go on a trip. And then for like 2 weeks, I will hit you up when I get back. And during the course of that trip, I was traveling with some friends of mine who are photographers, and the Oregon coast is unbelievable. It's magic. And I just had a cell phone and I was taking pictures, and it wasn't like an immediate thing, but my point to all of this is that I thought I needed to be this yoga journey. And I thought that for like 10 years, just casually, not like absolute burning passion, but just this like, hey, what could I do? And my brain would always spit that out. Like, you would love to be a yoga teacher. And it's true. But if I had been married to that idea, I would have been blind to when life introduces you to a person that presents new information for you. If I was not open to this newer circle of friends that were like, hey, there's this thing that we do that we are loving. And, and that little seed just got planted in me. And I bought it. We planned another trip, and I bought a camera for the second trip because I was like, okay, the first one was amazing. Second one, it's going to be good. So I bought a camera, and it was by the end of the second trip, it was already in. I had the camera in my hands. I was taking pictures of my friends, and luckily I just had a support group. They aligned in a different way, and friends were like, we believe in you. Absolutely. Like, we're doing this, and it's been working great for us. So it wasn't competitive. It was very cooperative. It was like, we'll give you whatever information you need, but you should try it if you want. And I did. I shot a girl, I did some cute photos. She wanted some modeling things. And it was the first time in my life where she loved the thing that I provided. And then our coworker saw her photos and was like, oh my God, can you take a picture of me and my daughter? And I'm like, yeah, of course. And then she loved her photos. And then her sister was like, oh my God, can you take a picture of my family? And then she loved it. You know what I mean? So it was like, I had never experienced that free flowing, like, oh my gosh, I think this might be it,
I got like chicken skin when you were talking about people asking you, will you take pictures of me? And also I kind of chuckled when you said I shot a girl. I know exactly what you meant. And
right. It does. Our lingo can be a little weird when I say like I shot a family yesterday.
Yeah.
Weird.
But that is what it is. Yeah. And it's absolutely awesome. It's interesting that yoga has come in and out of your life like that, or I guess mainly stayed in. I keep trying to quit teaching yoga. And I can't. It keeps coming back. So I'm teaching again now.
Yeah.
And it's like, it won't go away. And it's not like I'm trying to push it away, but it's, I follow, like you said, the things that bring me joy, and then it keeps coming back. So I'm like, okay, surrender.
So there's something still there for you that is unfinished. Yes. And I can guarantee that later in your life, when you look back on your chapters, you will realize like, oh, it was still pushing me towards like a person I hadn't met yet. There's something unfinished that's still flowing. And I think it's important to just kind of like follow those things that are happening.
Definitely. I also love that you opened to photography in Oregon. That is where I opened to music.
Oh,
so that's where I started singing. And I lived in Ashland for a few years. I'm not sure.
Oh, I've been there.
Isn't that great?
I went to the Ashland, Oregon, the Shakespeare Festival when I was 16.
Oh, wow. Young. Are you from over there, or where are you from?
No, I'm from here. I grew up in Hawaii, on Oahu.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. I was in theater growing up, and our theater director took us to Ashland to get inspired.
Yeah, it's definitely an inspiring place.
Yeah.
So is this, but.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that. I love that story. And then the third point that you had mentioned, and this, again, it just resonates so much to me. No wonder we connected so easily. But just authentically relating to people It's
Yeah.
it's something that I think is almost a lost art. But I only think it's lost because we're not, as a, as most people, I guess, just we're not relating to ourselves like you've been
Hmm.
able to do,
Hmm.
like I do now. But again, I had a journey to get there too. I feel like when we can really relate to ourselves, we're more interested in the other person and relating to them and showing that we want a genuine connection. Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely feel that with you. Do you want to talk about that and just how it gives you the ability to provide a safe space for your clients that you're
Absolutely. I
shooting?
think the most gigantic part of why this is working for me, like one, yes, I'm good at the computer. And two, yes, I'm a good photographer, but I don't think I'm like, just this, I'm here on this earth. I'm the most amazing photographer ever. It's just, I found a tool that allows me to create like cool stuff for people. But I absolutely think the reason that I've found success with it is because of what you're saying. Like I have found a peace in myself and a joy that I've been able to cultivate over the last like 6 years of my sobriety. And it is exactly that what you're saying. Like because I feel this like this sense of comfort in myself, I'm able to express that to other people. And that's the number one thing people say when they're like leaving reviews or they're talking to me. They're like, "Oh my God, thank you so much. You made me feel so comfortable. Like I was so worried about this." And I just think that for anyone that's in like the creative field, if you have clients, if you are looking for clients, it seems like it should be obvious. Like obviously these people need to be treated with the absolute most 100% that you can muster. And it's easier when you're by yourself. Like I'm not hiding under an umbrella of like a company or anything. You're messaging me. It is just me in my room, like, hi. And, so it's like, I want to form a real relationship. And the best shoots are at the end of the shoot where people are just inviting me, like, oh my God, like we live in San Diego, please come by, kind of a thing, where it's just like, I would absolutely meet up with you and like hang out. And I just think that makes a difference when you're trying to create friends, you're trying to create a family, and you're relating to people with love. And I draw like beautiful people to me. It's just the weirdest thing. I mean, they just find me online. But, if you present yourself authentically as much as you can, like say you have a website, like on my website, I feel like I'm trying my darndest to put my actual self out there so that when people read my about me, they're like, oh, okay, cool. I see his smile and I see his little like funny things and shows that he's into. That is then what draws people in. I've had people like be like, oh my God, I love that you watched The Handmaid's Tale, and I love that. And that's great. Let's chat about that. So I just feel like there is like a next level standard of service that you can find when you have really like come to terms with yourself, and then that will just start exploding like your client base. It's crazy.
Thank you for the compliment. You called me a beautiful person because you drew me.
I drew you to me. And it's crazy. Sometimes I'm like, I hear other photographers like, anyway, I mean, I don't pay a lot of attention to like negativity, just mostly just because I feel content in myself. And so it's okay. But I don't mind like, other people's little stories. And sometimes, I'm in photography groups online. I hear little stories and I'm like, gosh, that never happens to me. Like, so I don't know why. I don't know if, I'm very lucky. I draw like really beautiful people to me.
So awesome. I'm so happy. So now that you're on this podcast, everyone listening is a beautiful person and you're probably drawing them
Yes.
to you. How can they find
Yes.
you?
Well, you can definitely find me at brandonsmithphotography.com. That's probably the easiest way. Or
Instagram?
Instagram, Brandon Smith Photography.
Facebook?
Um, Facebook,
No.
I had to do Brandon Smith Photographer.
Okay.
Somebody else snaked me on that one.
I have a lot. There, a lot of people have snaked me on my name as well.
Yeah, it's hard when your name is Brandon Smith.
Or Laura Anderson. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm going to put that all in the show notes. Have you joined the Light of Conscience community on Facebook yet? I don't know if you're
I
on Facebook very much.
haven't. No, after our conversation, I found I found your podcast, but I will find you on Facebook. I need to delve deeper.
because then they can connect with you there as
Okay.
well, and we can
Yeah,
post things. And if they have questions and or
absolutely.
whatever, if you want to share your photos, because we all want to see them,
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
definitely connect in on there. Awesome. So I'll have all of that in the show notes. Are there any last words you'd like to leave with the podcast listeners for now?
I guess I just feel like called to say, I feel like when I have kind of conversations like this with people, there's always just this like, I don't know like how to start or like where to go or what this journey looks like. And I think it's just always good to remember it took a long time to build yourself to where you're at now. That, like I said before, it's going to take a minute to start building a new you, and it's because those neurons have made a family in your brain, and that's not you. That's plastic. But it's easy to forget that. So it's like those neurons can be retrained in a different direction. I have physically done it myself. I literally felt broken and depressed, and like I will never make anything of myself to completely. I'm not like shooting myself like, oh, amazing. It actually is just a doable thing that just takes a minute. And like I said, you just be gentle with yourself, and it's just little by little you can reshape your outlook on the world. And when, like I'm interested in the teachings of Abraham, where that law of attraction, where it's like the more in alignment and the more positive you can begin to feel, you'll start to see those things start coming towards you. And then in the beginning, it's so slow and it takes forever and it sucks. But then as it's been like, once that engine is running, that energy inside myself feels good, and I expect good in the world now. And because I expect it, I see it. And then I start seeing it, then I just believe it, because it's like, well, I'm seeing it all over. Things are good. So anyway, I just wanted to give a little reassurance to people in the beginning that are wondering why it feels so lame. It's because it does, and it's going to take a minute.
It really does. And I love how genuine you've been today and always. And that message is so, so good, especially like you were saying, for people in the beginning. I think we're always beginning, right?
Yeah.
There's always more. So
Yeah.
just remember that the word patience, it's it's going to suck, and it's okay. Thank you so much for sharing that and everything you shared today. I've absolutely loved this. And I can't wait to see you in the Light of Conscience community and everywhere, in the ethers and places. So
I'm going to go there right now.
All right. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, love.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, y'all. So before I close this podcast, I did want to clarify how I said I'm always trying to quit. I did air quotes there, trying to quit teaching yoga, and it keeps coming back to me. I have a feeling it keeps coming back to me because it's a part of my purpose, and that when I do take breaks from it, I believe that I actually go deeper into my own transformation. And when I come back out, it's like from a whole different space. So it's been one of the biggest blessings in my life to teach yoga, especially Kundalini yoga, but really any style. It's all awesome. So just wanted to clarify there. And I hope that I get to see you in a class. There are many opportunities. I do yoga in the park, and that's on Oahu, of course, in Honolulu. I also do events and retreats here on Oahu, and every Friday at 8:30 Hawaii time, I do an online Kundalini yoga class. All you need is internet and a space to do it. Could be a tiny little space in your home. Doesn't matter. You can do yoga with me. So I really hope that I do see you. And if you want information about that, please reach out. I'd love to meet you. Thank you. You know me, I love when people talk about the brain and the nervous system and how it is plastic. It can be changed. I also loved how he talked about how it does suck in the beginning. It really can. So something that may help you is to have a small community. And in Club LC, which I talk about all the time, that is what we have. And the Reiki can help with the energetic aspects of it, Kundalini Yoga will help with the physical aspects of it, the meditations, with that brain rewiring. So check it out. It's bit.ly/club, capital L, capital C. Join a community of people who are open and in love with, in some way, change for the greater good. Join us in the Light of Conscience community. We cannot wait to see you there. It's on Facebook, and it's easy to find because you'll see the whale and know that you're in the right place. Please answer the questions. I have 3 questions. They're super easy to answer. I just really like to know where you're coming from, and curious to know a little bit more about you. So join us there, Light of Conscience community on Facebook, and definitely find Brandon on Instagram. His photos are as amazing as he is, understandably so. And I hope that you have an absolutely beautiful, radiant day. Thank you so much. Until next time, we'll see you in the Light of Conscience. And don't give up on your life. Your dreams give hope and offer light. Let's make love to the beauty of the lives we've yet to live, and bathe in the creation of the gift